Hello race fans, I'm Chris Terrell. I'm here for dailyfantasysportsrankings.com to bring my weekly daily fantasy NASCAR post-qualifying picks video. Before getting into that, if you're not a DFSR member yet, make sure to sign up. It's going to give you access to our member chat room. I'm in there discussing NASCAR pre-lock, usually in there Saturday night as well. And I cover NHL, do sheets for NBA, cover MLB and NFL as well as PGA for DFSR. So I'm in there pretty much 24/7, 365. When you go to the sign up page, you're going to get a 7-day free trial right now, and then you have two options after that free trial is out, either $14.95 a month, which is going to give you our projections, and then to get our optimizer for the NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL, it's going to be $29.95 a month. One subscription covers all the sports and the member chat as well. Get over, check it out today. With that, let's get into this week's picks. After a week off, the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series gets back on track at Talladega Superspeedway for the Geico 500 tomorrow afternoon. The difference this week, we got a 2.66 mile super speedway. Formerly, we'd be calling this a plate track. That has changed a little bit. They don't use restrictor plates anymore. This will be the first race on a super speedway using the new tapered spacer. What that has done, they're trying to reduce the speeds in the same way the restrictor plate is, just a little bit different setup. It's a conical shape in that plate, so the air goes through just a little bit better. And the one thing that drivers have been talking about a lot here so far through two practices and qualifying is throttle response. Talking about if you get in a good run, you can really get up on the cars in front of you really fast. So I think we're going to see a lot of passing, a lot of good racing. Guys in front aren't going to be able to hold the lead, I don't think, like we've seen at the Xfinity race today. Some drivers are even saying if you're going to be trying to block like that, you're probably going to wreck and be out of the race. So looks like we're probably going to see some crashing tomorrow, just being this the first race with this new rules package on a super speedway. Not really sure what's going to happen, so there's going to be a lot going on there. What we're going to be looking for from a strategy standpoint, same as usual with super speedways, we're going to be looking for drivers that start at the back. If they're able to get in a run and pass drivers very quickly, that just means that place differential is definitely at a premium here this week, especially on DraftKings, where it's worth just a little bit more. So we are going to get into the picks here. We'll have a quick look at the qualifying and practice. I'm not putting any weight really on practice this week because drivers, they have doing different things. Some of them are out there in groups. Some of them were out there running single car runs. And as we've kind of seen, guys that were good in the single car qualifying, some of them that will be starting inside the top 10 were down and outside the top 20 in practices. So I'm not really taking a lot from the practice. It was more of a learning thing, I think, for a lot of the teams out there. So mostly what I'm going to be looking at, and I haven't got it quite adjusted in here yet, is practice to qualifying differential. I'm going to put a whole bunch of weight on that as well and get this down to 100. So as you can see, this is how I am going about. Go back there. This weighted average, I want to get it down to 100. So definitely want to look at form, get that track type history down a little bit. Just things are a little bit different, and the career track history. So I'm probably going to go there, 30% weight on track history over the last 2 years. I really like the qualifying to practice differential. Guys that are starting back in the pack that were maybe showed some speed in practice. Kyle Busch comes to mind there right at the top, but there is a lot of them, as you can see down this qualifying column here, that are starting towards the back. So I think that's going to be the strategy this week, is out of the 6 drivers in your lineup, maybe looking at about 4 of them starting outside the top 20. More GPP would be going maybe just 3 or just 2, but I think place differential is going to be huge, where you need at least 4 or 5 of those drivers starting outside the top 20 who are going to get that place differential. And then it's pretty much a roll of dice who's not going to get caught up in the wrecks to get through to the end. So it feels like it's going to be one where I'm going to make probably 20 to 50 lineups just to cover my bases, go with my core drivers, and then build a second core. I'm probably going to have, I'll be talking about in some strategy stuff coming down the line, but running with like 3 different cores this week and then just mixing and matching in drivers. So my player pool at a race like this, at Talladega, Daytona is always a little bit bigger. So I'm looking at a lot more drivers in the player pool because, I mean, guys like David Reagan have done well. We've seen a lot of lower-end teams do really well here, whether they're finishing top 10, top 5, or even winning this thing sometimes. So definitely something to look at. Some of those lower-end drivers helps to build your stars and scrubs lineups. So a couple drivers that stand out. I mentioned Kyle Busch, not great at plate racing, not great here at Talladega, but he's starting 22nd and he showed top 10 speeds. So I'm definitely looking at him as an option here this week, just because that is expensive to build around. But like I said, there's a lot of low-end guys that we can look at as well. Martin Truex Jr., starting 20th, showed some speed there. So again, looking at that place differential. Going ahead and looking at Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski are probably going to be the top two guys I'll be looking at this week to build around. Logano, they've won 5 of the last 7 races here, 6 of the last 8, I believe it has been at Talladega. They've been very good on plate tracks. They've been very good so far this year. So definitely going to be looking at them. They are starting 8th and 4th. So that's a little bit more contrarian if you were to stack those two guys together starting inside the top 10. But chances are they're going to be inside that top 5 at the end, provided they don't get in a wreck. They didn't show much in practice, but again, I'm not looking at that practice times. I'm kind of looking at guys that are good at plate tracks, good at Talladega, and are starting back in the pack, giving us some place differential upside as well. And then, of course, Forum got one guys that are doing quite well. So. Denny Hamlin pops in the model as well. He's starting 23rd, so he gives us a lot of place differential value. Add to that, he's also been very good here at Talladega. We'll just go look at him here from racingreference.info. 4th, 14th, 6th, 11th, 3rd, so he's been consistent here. Couple top 5s in that time as well, so definitely looking at him. He's good at plate tracks. Won the Daytona 500 so far this year, so definitely looking at him. Kurt Busch starting 14th. Stands out. He's not been the best on the plate tracks, but he's been better at Talladega than Daytona. Starting 14th, so that's about middle of the pack. So if you went with like 4 drivers starting outside the top 20, and then one that's starting just outside the top 10 and 20 in between there, and then one inside the top 10, I think that's a good lineup construction. When you're looking at cash games this week, Kurt Busch fits that mold at 9K. Couple drivers I think are maybe a little bit too cheap that I'll be looking at. Eric Almirola on DraftKings at 8,100. He is excellent at Talladega. So you can see he's the #1 driver here over the last 2 years. He won this race in the playoffs last year. He's good on plate tracks in general. He's starting 2nd, but I think he's a driver that could, lead a few laps. Although I think we're going to see, probably 10+ lap leaders in this race. I think he's one that could probably get up closest to that 50. Just being he's been so good here, good in the draft. And he's only 8,100, so he's someone that I would consider inside the top 10 as one of my top guys starting inside the top 10 this week. Austin Dillon showed speed throughout the weekend. Good on plate tracks, good here at Talladega. Starting on the pole, which is kind of scary, so it's more of a GPP play this week. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's been excellent here at Talladega as well, as you can see. Good on the plate tracks. He's won since the start of 2017. He's won at both Daytona and Talladega. He's had 4 of his last 5 starts here have been top 5s at Talladega. So definitely looking at him starting 6. I think he could be there at the end, provided he doesn't get in a wreck too. Like I said, these guys are starting inside the top 10. Maybe a little bit better plays on FanDuel. More of a GPP play when you're looking at DraftKings, but I don't usually play cash on these high variance tracks like this anyway, so I'm looking at GPP, so these are all guys that are going to be in my GPP player pool this week. Looking at a couple other guys, I don't mind Matt DiBenedetto starting 26th in new different equipment here this year. Hasn't been terrific at Talladega, but starting 26th, I'll definitely consider him. William Byron, he showed some speed in practice. Hendrick seems to be a team that does get together well in the draft, so definitely looking at stacking them as well. That's something that you can definitely do. We talked about this at Daytona 500, is stacking teammates just because of the draft. So you get your Logano and Keselowski together, just finding your teams. And you can find that on my sheet just going to the entry list. I've sorted it by manufacturer, and then I sorted it by team, so you can easily find guys that are on the same team or guys that are driving the same type of car. So definitely check that out if you are working on stacks. Some cheap guys looking at this week. David Ragan was definitely on my radar early in the week. Not really liking that he's starting 15th. I definitely will have a little bit, but not as much as I had originally hoped. Definitely looking at some of these guys lower down. I think we can attack them as well. Like a Corey LaJoie can get in there. Michael McDowell, he's starting 12th, so that's probably like a 1%, 2% kind of play in your player pool. Bubba Wallace. You can pretty much make a combination of 2 or 3 of any of these guys down here. Matt Tiff starting 18th. He showed a lot of speed. I was kind of hoping he started further back, but I think I will still have some of him starting 18th. He could definitely pop into the top 10. We could see him there as well. Showed that he can really get in there and get in that draft well, like he showed in practice. Both of the practices. He was 15th in the first one, and then he was 4th in that second practice. So it was really good to see there as well. So I will look at the practice speeds. But like I said, when you're looking at the practice speed and some of the guys that qualified top 10, I'm not panicking to see like a guy like Brad Kozlowski up here who qualified fourth, but he was 33rd and 21st in practice. So not really worried about that. But some of these lower end guys, I'd like to see some speed in their cars, these lower end teams. So Matt Tiff definitely stands out there as well. That covers all the drivers here for this week. Kind of my core. I will have a few more. Like I said, I opened my player pool up quite a bit. So if you have any questions, definitely hit me up at dfsr.com in the members chat, over at Rotor Pros in our community chat, or on Twitter at Jaeger_bombs9. And with that, make sure to like and subscribe to the video. Let's go make some lineups for tomorrow's race. Get some green screens. Good luck.